Hello everybody, how are we all doing? I hope that everyone is doing very, very well. Welcome back to another video for the channel. Today we are going to go through a glutes and hamstrings style day. It's basically another lower session, but this session today is a little bit more glute and hamstring dominant. I don't have a huge amount of direct or like focused quad work, so I thought it would be nice to show you a leg day that's obviously a little bit different. Also just show you what my leg days are looking like on this current split. Anyone who is looking to grow some big glutes and hamstrings, hopefully it will be a bit insightful to kind of show you how I approach training them personally, give you some kind of tips, some bits of guidance that you can take on board within your own process, and hopefully that will be helpful for you. So my pre-workout meal at the moment is here. I've got 75 grams of rice, 150 grams of chicken, a mixture of vegetables, some kimchi, and then I've also got some rice cakes and some dark chocolate. So a little bit different maybe than the last time that you've seen. Main difference being I've got less rice, and then I basically put that rice as rice cakes just because I'm literally fancying having something a little bit different. I like the texture of rice cakes and just fancy some. So that's the way I've been setting up my pre at the moment. I'm gonna eat this now, watch something kind of training related or something that gets me excited to go into the session, and then I will walk you through what I have on the way to the gym and then during the session as well when we get there. All right then, I'm in the car. I'm just about to head off to the gym. I've got my coffee, which I will have pre-workout. So I always just have like a standard black coffee before I train. I am not really a stim pre-workout kind of girl. It just doesn't end well. It really doesn't. I even tried the other day. I was like, I'm gonna try having like a little bit of defib, and I had a quarter of a serving, and I was like, not for me. Like, I don't like feeling like I can't focus. I don't like feeling like my heart rate is too fast. I don't like feeling like sweaty. I don't like feeling like tingly, anything like that. So a coffee usually does the job for me. So yeah, I will drive to the gym now, listen to some tunes, drink my coffee, and then it will be time to train. Alright, so I'm going to talk through the session before we get started, because I'm actually training with one of my clients, Hannah, today, who I have been coaching for 2 years, and this is actually the first time like that we're properly training together, because in the time that we've been working together, we'd not planned a session in and then been able to get a session in when we both weren't like in prep. But before she gets here, I thought I'd talk through the session and also show you my intra again. So during training, I have 25 grams of cyclodextrin, 1 serving of EAAs, and 5 grams of creatine. So always keep that the same. I just have this in a nice 1.5 litres of water, and I will drink that throughout the session. Session today then, so the rundown we've got as laid out here in my extremely messy logbook. We've got abs to begin with. So 2 sets of cable crunch, 2 sets of calf raise on the donkey calf raise. I like to do that on the donkey I like to do that on the donkey calf raise because it's not like loading through my traps or anything, and it's actually the one movement for me where I can get still a decent amount of range of motion compared to a lot of other machines where I struggle because I don't have the height. I'm moderately vertically challenged. Then, oh wait, hang on. I've actually got the wrong session up here for you guys. This shows how I am still adapting to this training split. Okay, this is actually, the start of the session doesn't change. We still have abs, then we have calf raise. Then we move on to lying hamstring curl. So I've got 2 sets of lying hamstring curl, 1 set of RDL. Today I have a 4 to 6 repper, so a little bit of a lower rep set. Last week I did 122.5 of 5. So I'm gonna do that load again, probably aim to get either 5 better reps or try and get 6, get to the top of that rep range. Then I've got Cybex leg press. And then I have got Smith machine rear for elevated split squats, and then rear delts. And that's literally it. So it's a pretty efficient session. Hannah's going to basically follow the session along because her session is very similar, but she normally does Smith squats in this session. So she's going to do Smith machine squats, I believe, when I do RDLs, because she has her hip hinge in a different session. Should be a really good one today. I'm feeling good. You can see here my body weight is relatively heavy at the moment. I'm 127 pounds right now. which is about 22 pounds above my stage weight. So I'm feeling it. I'm definitely feeling heavier, but I'm also feeling stronger. I'm feeling powerful, and that's how I want to feel. My weight's been moving up a little bit more as of late, which I know for a fact is just more so like hormonal relative, which a lot of females will understand. But like, I feel good, adherence is great, training's progressing, and yeah, that's what we want to see. So just starting off with my mobility work, which is pretty much the same as what I do on my upper body sessions, except I obviously just do a little bit more through the lower half, like focusing more on hips, pelvis position, everything through the lower body, moving, flexible, ready to go, so that we can be safe and obviously powerful throughout training as well. So as you've seen from the layout, I start all of my leg sessions with ab work. I have a mixture of like cable crunches or crunch work, and then some like leg raise work as well. I like to do this at the start of the session because it not only allows me to prioritise my ab training, but it also has really good cross transfer, I think, into the rest of my leg training too. Just in the sense of having good engagement with like my abs, my core, my midsection control in general, which definitely helps with just bracing and everything else. So a lot of really good positives in that, and like I say, for most people, it means that they make sure the actual quality of their ab training is good to begin with. And you also don't feel tempted to miss it off at the end and then wonder why you've not got any abs when it comes down to time to diet. So yeah, make sure you prioritise your ab training. Alright, so we're starting on calves now. Hannah's going to do the standing calf raise because she is tall enough to do the standing calf raise. I'm not. So I'll be doing the dog calf raise. You got 3 sets on here? Yeah, Hannah's got 3 sets, I've got 2. You usually do these at the end of the session as well, don't you normally? Oh, do you? Yeah, so now Hannah's doing them at the start, but I normally do them at the start as well because I find that it really helps me. One, again, it's like the abs, like doing them at the start so the quality is good. But also for me, when it comes to just like ankle mobility as well, I find that it really helps, so that can be another benefit of doing them. But yeah, 2 sets on here for me, 3 sets for Hannah, and then we'll move on to hamstring curls from there. So when we do this, I usually put this pad on here because this lying hamstring curl is almost like a little bit flat, and I find that when I'm then in it and I'm trying to actually curl, my hips lift off so much even with really low weight. So when I have this, I find that it just lifts my hips up into a little bit of a better position to push down. I don't know what, it might even feel better if you can try something like this on the Nautilus, you know, at Lincoln, if you ever find that's an issue. You can see how it feels on this today. I know it's obviously a different hamstring curl, but it might even cross transfer well. It gets heavy fast, but I'm not super strong with my hamstrings. Like, I'll do 3 pins for my first set, but just do as many warm-ups as you need to just kind of like feel obviously what feels good for you.
I think heavy everything like the third pin.
Yeah, it's really heavy, this, really heavy. Yeah. It's like, I've had a few people come and they're like, oh, I normally do 60 kilos at my gym. I'm like, no. I'm like, just see how it feels. There's a great point that me and Hannah were just making there, is that, you know, some machines are ultimately going to be a lot heavier than others. And I think that sometimes when it comes to training maybe in general, like people just want to be super, super strong. And obviously you want to get stronger over time, you want to progress in some way, shape or form, but the main thing is just getting the stimulus that you need for that body part. So make sure that you're prioritising the stimulus as a baseline, and especially when it comes to using like new or different pieces of kit, like don't be distracted by previous loads or what you think you should move. Just do whatever you need to do to actually get the job done.
So you can see how when I actually get into my first working set here, I always kind of like lift myself up. I position my knees with alignment to my hips so that my hips, knees and ankles are basically in straight alignment with each other, and then I set myself in, and that's just to make sure that everything is aligned as best as possible so that I can work my hamstrings as best as possible. A lot of people find that if they were to just kind of like sit or lie straight into a hamstring curl or leg extension, they sometimes have quite a lot of external rotation of like the knee, the hip, the ankles, and things are just out of alignment. And that can mean that you're taking a lot more of that load through your joints and your tendons rather than actually through the muscle group as much as possible. So with a movement like this, just kind of like I show you, you might find that just kind of setting your position first, making everything's aligned, then getting into the set, just feels a little bit better, and then you're kind of set to literally just go and attack the set once you're all locked in.
Yes, beautiful, lovely, lovely work. I've got RDLs next. Hannah's actually got Smith squats today because this is like a bit more of a quad dominant session for her. For any of you who maybe haven't followed like my content on Instagram or Hannah's, so Hannah is a bikini competitor. She had an incredible first season last year, and she's now just working on being an even better bikini competitor in this off season. So she's got, again, like a decent amount of leg training within that, but she still needs some quads alongside some very good glutes. So she's actually got Smith squats today, but she does a little bit more hip dominant anyway, but this is her squat session. She does her hip hinge on her other leg session in the week. So she's doing that while I do this, which works a little bit better anyway, so we're not kind of getting in each other's way. But that's probably one thing that a lot of people neglect when it comes to trying to grow their glutes or hamstrings is, I mean glutes specifically, is they generally just do very like isolated and short and challenged movements. So a lot of kickbacks, a lot of hip thrusts, which obviously having a lot of those things in is great as well, but you also really need a lot of length and challenge movements. So your leg presses, your split squats, hip hinges. It's why hip hinge is obviously a great movement to have in place. For most people, if you're looking at glute and hamstring development, RDLs are probably going to be the best ones. So that's what I actually have in personally. I've been doing these for a really long period of time now, and they've been spot on. Like, that's the best thing with the hip hinges. Stick to one that works well for you, get really good at it, get skill adaptive at it, because they are a big movement that benefits from and relies upon you having the skill of them. So try not to chop and change it all the time. Like, get good at it, get confident at it, and be able to progress it safely over time.
I then just went in to start doing my normal warm-up protocol, which is where I kind of, obviously I'm locked in here now, so this is why I'm not really talking through it much, because you have to focus on the sets, the warm-up work that you need to do to get you ready to take your best performance. Like, if you're messing around or getting distracted or doing different things, you are probably going to limit your focus a bit. I mean, some people can deal with being a bit distracted throughout the session and kind of joking around a little bit, and don't get me wrong, I definitely can, but I also know when I need to lock in to take good work. So I cracked on with my warm-ups. The protocol for me literally runs the exact same. So I do an empty bar, I do 60 kilos, 80 kilos, 100 kilos, 110 kilos, which you saw for my last warm-up, literally just a couple reps. And then I went in and worked with 122.5, which was my plan. And this is why having a plan is so important, because you know exactly what you need to do. I got a really good 6 reps here. So I was super happy with this set. I'll be honest, guys, this was a hard set for me to do. I did my last warm-up and it felt challenging, but I just reminded myself that, it's not going to feel easy every day. I know that just because it feels harder doesn't mean that I'm not still capable of taking good, strong work, and I just needed to be confident and get after it. Next up in the session here was the Cybex pivot leg press. So I had 2 sets on here. My first set, as you can see now, was a 4 to 6 rep it's programmed, but I actually got, I believe, 8 reps here. I tend to find that like 6 to 8 reps actually feels a little bit better. And then my back off set is a slightly higher rep set, but it's actually a disgusting set of 1.5 reps, which you will see shortly. So just a mixture of some heavy loaded sets with lower reps and some lighter loaded sets with higher reps. And that's more so just naturally as a result of the different loads that I'm using. So both sets I'm still training to failure, but of course, naturally, in order to fail with less reps, you're going to be working with higher load. Whereas, naturally then if you're failing with more reps, you need to get more reps, you're going to have to reduce the load in order to do that. So that's how we obviously come to picking load selection and how we decide what we're obviously going to work with for those different rep ranges. But just like anything else, we're working within those rep ranges that are going to be a little bit more ideal from hypertrophy standpoint, which for the most part, I find that especially with leg training, like 6 to 15 reps is a good place to be. I think when you start to go below 6, for most people especially, they'll maybe notice the quality of the work drops off a bit, or maybe the risk of injury is a little bit high. And then when you get above 15, for the majority of people, like, you're going to just start to gas out. Like, I know that obviously when we're looking at what's going to take over cardiovascular, you may be talking 50 reps and above, but just kind of ask yourself, like, once you get to 15 to 20 reps, are you really taking that muscle group to failure, or are you failing just because you're like so out of breath and you're so gassed out with the set? So usually I think 6 to 15 reps is a nice place to be. But yeah, we finished off here then with my 1.5 rep set, which, yeah, these are just horrible, but they are really improving my ability to brace even better coming down to that stretch, and just ultimately adding a little bit of an additional challenge, which I'm really enjoying. And that's the key thing with me for training. It should be for everyone, is that, we're never striving for perfect training, but we're doing things that allow us to learn new skills and be better and try things that are difficult. And that's a big part of enjoying my training for me more than anything, is having the ability to see where I can be better and do different things and learn how to improve on previous skills, rather than just consistently staying within my comfort zone as well.
Finishing off with the main sort of like glute leg work. I've got some rear delts to do after this, but doing some Smith machine split squats, which I actually really like. I've mainly done these with dumbbells before, but having a little bit of a different variation with having the Smith squats in instead, and it's a bit more stable. So if you do struggle with stability, especially at like the end of the session, a dumbbell split squat can be really quite challenging. Sometimes opting for a Smith machine can be a nice little alternative to have in there, but these are obviously just a great versatile movement that you can use for whatever it is you're trying to target. If you want to make them a little bit more quad bias, you can focus on having more like knees traveling over toes, getting more knee flexion. If you're wanting to make them a bit more glute bias, you focus on having more bias on hip flexion, leading with the hip and not trying to let the knee travel forward. So like, you'll notice my position, I tend to come back like this. My shin won't travel forwards over my toe. I'm trying to lead with the hip a little bit more. So I have 2 sets left on this. I originally had 1 set, recently added in a bit more work, so now as I'm getting used to this split, we're just trying to like drive up volume to basically just do what I can recover from. So pretty much at the end of this session, I'll do like 1 warm up here with 50 inside, and then I'll do my first set with a plate. Key thing when you're doing any form of split squat, I mean, the same thing goes for any movement, but especially with the split squat, which can be a bit fiddly to get set up. Just make sure you take your time in your warm-ups to get your setup perfect. You've got a mental note of where your foot needs to be, where the bench needs to be, and then when you go into your work set, it's perfect. Because a lot of the time I see people set it up and then they're like, oh, my position went off in my work set. I'm like, why did you not nail that down on your warm-up? So just make sure that you really, really nail it down, you take your time. Good, stay in it. Big stretch, big brace. Through. Yes, good. Nice, stay locked in. Go. Yes, good. Go again. Through. Yes, lovely. And I'll just finish off with a double rest pause set of rear delts, and that's literally just for like smart efficiency with where I place this in the split, so that my upper sessions aren't super long. and I can literally just bang it on the end of this slower session. Do 2 rest pause sets, still like quality work, so it's not like at the end of an upper session where if anything the quality might drop off a bit more. And this session is usually a little bit more efficient. Adding these on the end really doesn't take too much time. I wrap up the session here now before 1, the camera dies, and 2, before I go and have a little bit of a look at Hannah, because we're going to do, she'll be posing a bit of an in-person check-in. She's absolutely smashing her off-season at the moment, but it does always help, just like in prep, for me to have a look at my clients in person. Session today has been very, very good. As I said at the start, I was feeling a bit hormonal at the moment, but nevertheless still had a really strong session. Sometimes those are just the sessions of the days where I do have to dig a bit harder to get the workout. Like my RDL set today, I progressed it from last week, but I had to kind of just have a bit of a word with myself really before that set and be like, I'm gonna have to work this today, but I'm gonna make it happen. And to be honest, like sessions in off season are like that. You know, you're never gonna come in and just have easy progressions handed to you, especially not as a natural athlete. This goes obviously across the board, but especially with, you know, girls, for example, who are wanting to grow their glutes, their hamstrings, and they're thinking like, oh, I'm just doing, you know, like kickbacks, or I'm doing the volume of doing the work, but the growth's not happening. Like it's not going to come to you unless you've got crazy genetics, and especially as, you know, a natural female, you're going to have to work hard for the muscle that you want to build. You know, building a good pair of legs, good pair of glutes, some good glutes takes hard work. You know, you've got to train well with good execution. You've got to make sure that you're getting really good stimulus for those muscle groups, you're being consistent, and you are progressing over time in some shape or form. That's what you need to do in order to grow some seriously good glutes and hamstrings. Like a lot of them, like natural girls that I do know that are, you know, top bikini girls, top wellness girls, figure bodybuilding, like if you think those girls, they've got massive glutes, massive hamstrings naturally, like they train like their fucking life depends on it. And that's, you know, that's what you have to do. And ultimately, if you're trying to prioritise those areas, you need to maybe like train them as frequently as you can recover from them whilst keeping the quality good. And that's kind of what I'm even doing at the moment. Like my lower training is every 3 days. I used to train legs every 5 days, and now I train them every 3 days. I can recover well from that, and you can probably recover from more than you do realise. If you can recover from it, you can handle more. Like, don't be afraid of handling more, seeing how you get on. Worst case scenario, you can't recover from it, and you either then look at, okay, what can we do to improve recovery, or, okay, that's maybe pushing the line a little bit too far, but just see what you can do to absolutely maximise that. I have actually released a bit of a like growth e-guide that kind of breaks a lot of things down when it comes to maximising your potential leg growth. So if you're interested in kind of getting a bit more information on the ins and outs, I'll leave a link for that down in the description below, so that you can sign up for that if you want to gain access to that, get a little bit of additional guidance. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching on the session. I hope you've enjoyed just watching me go through a lower session. If you want to see me go through my other leg sessions, because I have obviously got two more other sessions, those are a bit more. Well, one of them is a bit more quad dominant. The other one is just a bit of a balance. So if you want to see those, see what those look like as well, let me know. But yeah, if you made it to the end, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video today. Any questions, as always, shoot them below. If you have made it to the end of the video, you can just comment tripod. So this is a detachment from my tripod that is now just miscellaneously on its own.
And then I realised that the plan was to also show you what I eat around training, so I needed to actually come home and show you my post-workout meal. I used to, for a really long period of time, have my post-workout at the gym, but it is really important after training that when you have that meal, you are in a relaxed state. You're not just like shoving it in straight away after training, because that's when you're probably going to find that your stresses are a bit higher, you're not actually able to digest your food as well as possible. So I always come back from my post-workout, watch something that allows me to kind of switch off and start to wind down and recover. So post-workout meal I've got here, I have 75 grams of rice, 150 grams of chicken, some salad, and then I am also going to pair this with 50 grams of sourdough, and I will put like 10 grams of jam on there as well. Those are the meals that I have around training. The reason why I have basically the same meal pretty much pre-workout and post-workout is because, one, I really like that meal, and two, I digest that meal really well. And that's something that's really, really important when it comes to your pre and your post-workout nutrition is, yeah, of course you need to prioritize like probably a good amount of your carbohydrates around the training window, but you also need to make sure that you pick foods that digest really well and sit really well, because otherwise you're not probably going to fuel a great session, and you're probably not going to take on board that food well after training too. So I did already kind of cap this video off in the gym, but I'm going to try and cap it off a little bit again now. So I want to say that if you have made it to the end of this video, I hope you have enjoyed watching. I hope you found this entertaining and also hopefully a little bit insightful to see how I set up my leg sessions and also how I set up my food around training as well. If you've got any questions at all about the way I set things up, about the session, anything like that, please do shoot them in the comments below and I'll obviously get back to you as best as I can do. Make sure to like, subscribe for future content, and ultimately just thank you so much for watching. So yeah, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. Hope you have a great session if you're training after this, and I'll catch you all in the next one.